Have you ever received a gift you never asked for? One that came without a name, with no return address? A simple box left at your doorstep, its contents unknown, yet its presence undeniable. Samantha Thompson, a woman who lived by logic, never believed in the supernatural. But all that changed when she opened a package that would shatter her reality. Inside, porcelain doll, beautiful yet cold. Cold in a way that sent a chill down her spine, as if it wasn't just made of porcelain, but something darker, something far older. At first, she thought it was just an odd gift, but soon whispers began. Strange noises at night, and the doll, it moved. Samantha thought she could ignore it, but the doll didn't want to be ignored, and now it's waiting, watching. It wants something from her, and if she doesn't give it, it will take everything. This is no ordinary doll. This is the frozen doll, and Samantha will never escape its grip. But beware, for what you bring into your home may not be what it seems. Are you ready to hear the truth? The doll was beautiful, in an unsettling way. It had delicate features, with glassy, lifelike eyes that seemed to follow Samantha wherever she went. The moment she touched it, a chill ran down her spine. It was cold, unnaturally cold, as if it had been frozen in time. Samantha placed the doll on a shelf in her living room, thinking it was just a bizarre, albeit unsettling, gift. Maybe it was meant for someone else, she thought. Maybe it was an antique that had been misdelivered. She didn't know, but she couldn't help but feel an uncomfortable weight in her chest every time she looked at it. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought she heard faint whispers. Not from outside, not from the street, but from inside her own house. They seemed to come from the living room, soft and incoherent. She brushed it off as the wind or her imagination, but when she closed her eyes, she could still hear them, just beneath the hum of the heater. Days passed, and the whispers grew louder. They began to form words, and the words were always the same. Come closer, come closer. Samantha, one evening, after a long day of teaching, Samantha returned home to find the doll had moved. It was no longer where she had left it. Instead, it was sitting on the couch, its head tilted in a way that made her stomach churn. She didn't know what to think. Had she moved it without realizing? Had someone broken in? She checked the windows and doors. Everything was locked. But something about the doll's presence felt off. Felt like it was waiting for her. That night, she had a dream. The doll was standing at the foot of her bed, staring at her with those cold, lifeless eyes. But this time, it wasn't just a dream. In the dream, the doll spoke. Its voice was soft, hollow, like ice scraping against metal. You shouldn't have taken me, the doll whispered. Samantha jolted awake, heart pounding. The room was dark and still, and the doll was exactly where she had left it. But she could swear she heard the faintest rustle, as if the doll was shifting slightly on its own. By the end of the week, Samantha could no longer ignore the strange occurrences. Doors that were closed in the morning would be open when she returned home. Lights that had been off flickered in the night. The whispers grew into hissing, like the breath of something ancient, something trapped in the walls of the house. And the doll was always there, watching. It was one evening when the air in the house grew unbearably cold that Samantha finally confronted the doll. She took it off the shelf and held it tightly in her hands. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The doll's eyes gleamed, its cold porcelain surface somehow growing colder. Then it spoke again, but this time it was not a whisper. It was clear, almost too clear. "You must bring me what I need, or you will suffer." Samantha's breath caught in her throat as the room seemed to freeze around her. The temperature plummeted, and a thick fog began to gather in the corners of the room. The doll's eyes gleamed in the dim light, and she felt a presence behind her. A presence that wasn't hers. As the days wore on, Samantha's sanity began to fray. She could no longer trust her own mind. The doll's power over her grew. Each night, it seemed to call to her, urging her to sleep. And when she did, the dreams became worse. In her dreams, she was trapped in an icy wasteland, a place where the sky was always gray and the air froze her bones. The doll was there, always in her hands, and as she walked, the ground beneath her feet cracked open, revealing dark, gaping holes that seemed to lead to the very bowels of the earth. The whispers were louder now, insistent, as if something was trying to claw its way out. One morning, after a particularly vivid dream, Samantha woke to find strange marks on her arms. Deep, frozen scratches that hadn't been there before. They stung like ice had been embedded into her skin. She knew then that whatever the doll was, it was not of this world. In desperation, Samantha sought out an antique shop in town, hoping to find answers. The shop was dusty, filled with old trinkets and relics, but the moment she stepped inside, the air shifted. It was as if time itself slowed, and the world outside ceased to exist. The shopkeeper, an old woman with eyes that seemed far too knowing, approached her. "I know what you've brought into your home," she said softly. "You need to return it." "The doll?" Samantha asked, her voice shaky. The doll was cursed long ago. It was made from the bones of a child, an innocent child whose soul was trapped inside. It was meant as a vessel, a way to contain the restless spirit. But it escaped. The moment you touched it, the curse became yours. Samantha felt her legs go weak, her heart pounding in her chest. "How do I stop it?" The old woman's eyes darkened. "There's no stopping it now. The spirit will take what it needs. It will claim you in the end." Samantha returned home, but it was too late. The house was silent, too silent. She could feel the doll's presence as soon as she entered, a suffocating weight pressing against her chest. That night, the doll appeared before her, not on the shelf, not in her dreams, but standing at the foot of her bed, its eyes wide and alive with an unnatural hunger. The whispers returned, now louder than ever. "You've made me wait long enough," it said, its voice a low growl that shook her bones. The room grew freezing cold, and Samantha's skin began to burn, as if the very air was made of ice. She screamed, but no sound escaped her lips. The doll had already claimed her. The frozen doll was never meant to be a gift. It was a curse, a trap, a way to bind the living to the dead. Samantha Thompson will never escape its grip. Some gifts are not for you to keep. Some gifts will change your life in ways you'll never be able to undo. And sometimes the thing you bring into your home might just bring the darkness with it.